Hank Garrett here to say hi.
Yeah, and we're on the Break It Down show. So Hank is, gosh, Hank, it's what do you say? Like, are you a Hollywood legend? You've been around forever. Your life is incredible. Obviously, memoir grade, and we're going to talk about your book here in a second. If anybody wants to get the book, there it is. Harlem Hoodlum to Hollywood heavyweight, and that is so true, man. Your story is incredible. Well, how would you define what you are in Hollywood? I mean, you're obviously a pro actor. You've been in over 80 projects. Are you a legend? What are you?
Good actor.
All right, that's fair enough.
When somebody said legend, I thought they were calling me a leg end.
You're a foot. That's the end of my leg. Hey,
I'm an actor, and I was a stand-up comic.
Yeah. You've been a lot of things. You've been a comic. You've been a professional wrestler. You've been a hood in Harlem, as the title says, and you grew up in a harder time. I would say, you know, depression, World War II. These are harder times than what we're going through now. I mean, problems are a lot different now. Everybody's got a cell phone for crying out loud.
I know it's a frightening time. I was a cop for about a minute and a half. And what I saw then is absolutely nothing as compared to what's going on now.
So you think it was harder? You think it's harder now to get along than it was back then?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. The peace has driven people into their holes and afraid to go anywhere, do anything. Fortunately, my wife and I have both gotten our shots.
Yeah.
And so, but we're still quite hesitant about going places.
Yeah, well, that's true. The complicating factor.
Right? I was scheduled to do a couple of shows, and all the funds I earn, a good portion of it goes to disabled vets. I started by going to the hospitals, the veterans hospitals, to perform, to try to make someone laugh. And when I saw what was happening, I decided that I do autograph shows all over the country. In fact, different parts of the world. And what I did was decide that the proceeds would go to help these kids that are in trouble. I'm talking about I refer to our veterans as kids.
Sure.
I volunteered to go to Vietnam. I paid my own way. I went 3 times. I got to tell you, the first time I hit the stage, a machine gun, and I yelled, "Critics!" And all the kids were laughing, and we took off. And one of the GIs said, "Mr. Garrett, please don't make us laugh. We're trying to get the heck out of here." And we were running, and I just kept kidding around.
Yeah.
And at one point, we had finished doing the show. It was a boy singer, a girl singer, myself. We were just sitting around, and he had the young singer helmet off, and he was spinning the hat. I mean, on the chin strap, and it just kept moving it back and forth. Next thing, it went flying, and he went to pick it up, and there was a bullet hole through the helmet. Somebody stepped out of a hole somewhere, saw something glint, bang. So it was that kind of a situation that was so frightening. You didn't know where it was going to be coming from next. But we continued. We hit that front line and we did the show.
We just had uh, there's a writer, I think actually one of Harlan's clients also, and she wrote a book about Bob Hope called Dear Bob, and about his time in the USO and entertaining troops. And
Hmm.
it's just remarkable. Like, well, one, all the work, the lifetime of work that guys like you have done, but also, the times where he just misses, like the guys he talks to the next day, a lot of them are dead because there is a big firefight, or, the
Yeah.
airplane does crash or almost crashes, and all these incredible
Oh,
things. It's insane. Talk a little bit about that, some of your experiences.
well, I look at the GIs, and they were babies. They were little kids who were dressed up in
Yeah.
uniform and helmets and carrying guns that were bigger than they were. And was we went to visit the moving wall. It was a list of all the kids we lost in Nam. So I was there. And a guy came up to me and he said, Mr. Garrett, I, re- I remember you from Vietnam. He said, you made us laugh when there was nothing to laugh about.
Yeah.
And it killed me, just tore me up. And I just felt I have to give back. And that was my way of giving back. And now we have the book. And everyone has said that this book has got to be a movie.
Yeah.
Okay. And I know where the proceeds will be going.
Yeah.
The proceeds will be going to the disabled American veterans.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a disabled veteran, and I tell you what, there's never enough money. There are so many small problems that hit people who are disabled from combat, and it just becomes overwhelming. And for a small amount of money, you can get a lot of people out of trouble, who might otherwise, I don't know, go to prison, or commit suicide or whatever it is. So I appreciate deeply what you're doing, 'cause it does
Thank
make
you.
a big.
And as I said, I thank you for your service.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's go
Wow.
back in time. I want
Yes.
to I want to I want to ask you your angel. You have a very special angel, and not everybody has an angel like you do. But Sammy
Yes.
Davis Jr. was your angel. Talk about that incredible. I mean, you have all these incredible things that you've done, but talk about Sammy specifically for a few minutes.
Oh, absolutely. Uh, Being a kid on the street, always in trouble. Uh, my parents were quite. They were immigrants from Russia. They're Russian Jews, and they had a push cart, and they sold fruits and vegetables off a push cart. Suddenly, I was born. Now, my dad was in his 50s. My mom was in her mid to late 40s. My two half brothers were in the military. So what a surprise when they came home and saw me. In fact, my older brother constantly chided me by saying, "Oh, they found you in a trash can." I said, "What?" He said, "Yeah, nobody wanted you." And so I lived with that. And what happened was because my mother and father had no time for me, they were just hustling, trying to make enough money to pay for food. I lived on the street. I actually slept in cardboard boxes, and I wasn't the only one.
Mm.
So now I'm always in trouble. My mother was crying to one of her customers who happened to be the mayor. Because always fighting, always. I was so angry. I had nowhere to go. This street was my mother and my father. And I remember one Christmas, all the kids that lived on the block in the area had presents. They came out Christmas Day. I never got a toy. I never had a toy throughout my life. And I was really super angry. And I got into a fight again. And my mom cried this man there, and he came to me. And I'm standing on a street corner smoking. And he came over to me and he tapped the cigarette out of my mouth. I didn't know who he was, and I'm going to throw a shot at him. But two mountains came toward me, his bodyguards.
Right.
And he introduced himself. And he said, your mama wants me to take you out. And I said, my mother's putting a hit on me? He said, no, dummy. I'm going to take you out this evening. You got a suit? And I said, yeah, I got a suit. Before you suit on, man, take a bath. The running water in our home was rust. If you turned any faucet on, nothing rust. Okay, I put on my suit. He takes me in his car to the theater. And it was the #1 African-American theater. And I look up at the marquee and it says, starring Sammy Davis Jr. We don't go into the theater, we go around the back. And he goes right to Sammy Davis Jr.'s dressing room. And he said, this is the he said, man, I sat down. He said, you're a tough guy, huh? I said, yeah, I'm tough. He said, tough guy. I said, beyond that. He says, yeah, you're going to go to prison or you're going to die.
Right.
I had a pistol in my pocket, I had a 25 caliber pistol. And as he was telling me about these terrible things, that gun kept getting heavier and heavier and heavier. He wound up getting me a gig with an all African-American orchestra. Lucky Millender. I never forgot his name. God bless him. He said, you're going to be a band boy. I said, I don't play an instrument. He said, no. You put out the music for each one of the musicians, and at the end of the gig, you put everything back in its proper order. I said, oh, well, I did. And the end of the evening, we were at the Teresa Hotel in Harlem. Band leader came up to me and said, you did a good job, man. And he gave me $50. $50.
What? Yeah. Wow.
And he said, get yourself some new kicks, shoes. My shoes were torn to shreds. In fact, I had a big hand holding the sole in place. Well, next day I went and bought a pair of Florsheim shoes for $15, and I gave my mom $35 more than she had seen all year, all her life. And Sam, I did the gig. I worked with the Lucky Millender Orchestra for over a year. And then Sammy said, I want you to do a corporate skills. I said, for what? He said, learn. I want you to watch all the comics. You're funny. I've seen you doing some funny things. I used to do funny stuff to save myself from getting a beating from another gang. And a gang member years ago, prior to that, I was standing in front of my building and a kid walked up and punched me straight in the face and broke my nose. 9 years old, I got a busted nose. And so they said to him, why you hit that kid? He said he cursed my mother. I never saw this guy. Well, I'm watching all the comics. I'm learning. I'm taking little pieces of material from different comics. And I wind up performing up in the Catskills. Well, boy, somebody from the William Morris office sees me on a show. And I get signed to the Muppets office. Going to be Tony Bennett's opening act. I mean, from 111th Street between Park and Lexington to at the Sands.
Yeah.
Opening night at the Sands with Tony Bennett. Ringside, Frank Martin, Peter Lawford, and Sammy Davis. Finish my job. Frank gives me a standing ovation. And it was like, wow. Everybody after the show ran to see Tony, except Sammy. Sammy just stood there and he said, "You funny cat. Where do I know you from? You look so familiar." I said, "Sam, I'm the kid that you said is going to go to prison or die." And he said, "That's you?" I said, "Yeah." We hugged, we cried, two of us just standing there looking and staring at each other, and the tears rolling down our faces. And things started happening from there. Sammy was my angel. God sent me, this amazing man, to be my angel, to get me off the street. And now I go to prisons where children are incarcerated. And I speak to them and tell them, where you are right now, I was there. I sat there. In fact, this is a picture of me when I was a kid. Somebody did the sketch. So I could not believe. And I prayed to God. I never was religious. That was something that was so foreign to me. But I had the need to do that. And I was told, do what you can, what you do best to help others as someone helped you. And so that's what I try to do. I do autograph shows all over. Pictures of Car 54, 3 Days of the Condor, and other movies and television shows that I've done. And I autograph them and I sell them, and the proceeds go to disabled vets. So far, we've raised over $60,000.
Wow, man, that's incredible. I want to get into your fist fight with Robert Redford on the scene on the set, but let's first I'm going to close out the Sammy Davis Jr. part. Actually, let's back up. I want to pass up the fact that you were opening up for Tony Bennett. What is that like? What's the time frame from opening up for Tony Bennett from living on the streets with the hole in your shoe? Like, how long is that? How many years did it take to get to the point where you're doing that?
Well, Sammy got me off the street at 12, and I was I was in my 18s. I became a cop for about a minute and a half because I wanted to make a difference, and joined the police force. And I realized I could not make a difference. Everything was kind of set in stone. So a friend of mine who was a fellow comic. His wife was, his name is Mickey Deems. His wife was Gertrude. Nat Hiken created the Bill Go Show, Car 54, and other shows. And she got me an interview. And I sat there. I didn't sleep all night the night before, meeting this incredible giant. And Nat Hiken sat opposite me, very quiet, smoking. And he said, "You're Ed Nicholson." And I said, "Oh, no, I'm Hank Garrett." He said, "Just the kind of dummy I'm looking for." He said, "Nicholson is the character on Car 54. You are him."
Yeah.
I went, "What?" And I went from being a cop for a minute and a half to being one of the stars on Car 54. Where are you?
Yeah.
And
Talk
I,
about a
all I-
time, you know, that's insane to go from the streets of Harlem being a cop to actually being a cop on a TV show. That's
Yes.
just such a different world.
Oh God, is it? In fact, at one point when I told
How
my
does a kid
commanding,
like you? Yeah.
I told my commanding
How does a
officer,
kid like you from Harlem? Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I missed the
No, go
question.
ahead. You told your commanding officer.
Oh yeah, and I told the commanding officer, I said, "Sir, I'm leaving the job." He said, I said, "Well, I'm going to be doing a television show." He said, "You'd rather be a comic on television or remain a comic on the police force?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Smart move."
How does a
So
kid who lives on the streets with a hole in his shoe, you know, sleeping in cardboard boxes, how do you learn how to manage money well enough? It'd be easy for someone who doesn't have any money to just blow it all on things, but you've got this Hollywood thing now. You're acting. How do you learn how to do the business and the livelihood part of it?
for through Sam, who had gotten, he was the one so removed from being with the Mark's office. He had faced a lot of prejudice. In fact, he was appearing at the Sands and could not get a room to stay in. And Frank Sinatra, God bless him, told the people at the Sands, if Sammy Davis Jr. doesn't stay here, I'm pulling out and you'll never see us again. Well, they suddenly magically found a room for Sammy.
Yeah.
And that changed the picture in Vegas. When your question with the money,
Yeah.
I became a hoarder. I didn't want to spend any of this money. Oh my God, because I don't know if I'm going to have any money for tomorrow.
Right.
So Sam got me with somebody to handle the money. Every dollar. And it was amazing. In fact, one night at the Sands, pay night, I'm in my dressing room and Tony is next door. They hand me Tony's check by mistake. And I yelled, "Wow, what an increase!" The guy handing out the checks comes running by, takes the check out of my hand, gives me my check, and I went, "Wow, what a cut I just took." And Tony came over and he was laughing so hard.
That's
And
hilarious.
and Tony was a wonderful, wonderful guy to work with. Oh my God.
Do you get to talk to Tony Bennett at all, or Do you guys
Oh,
not get
yeah. Not much because Tony was very involved in his free time. He was painting.
right?
But at one time, I learned dialectic gibberish from Sid Caesar. I snuck into the theater that he was working in with his show, Sid Caesar. Now I'm sitting way up in the balcony. I snuck in. I went up the fire escape, the back of the building, and through the roof and into the theater. I don't ask me where I got the guts to do that. And at one point, I laughed out loud. And Sid stopped and said, "Who's up there?" And I stood up. He said, "You, come on down." I came down and I thought he was going to have me arrested. He said, "Sit here." Put me in the first seat in the first row. He said, "And you only laugh when I say things that are funny. Forget them." And I sat there and I watched. And he said, "What are you doing, kid?" I said, "Well, I want to be like you. I want to be a wonderful comedian." I said, "You are my star. There's nobody greater than you." And I had a way with dialect, and it was from listening to radio when I was home, and I heard stuff, and I learned dialectic gibberish. Now, when I was working with Tony and his accompanist were having breakfast. I walked over and I said, and it's all dialectic gibberish. A guy comes over with tears in his eyes and says, "Oh my God, I haven't heard Sicilian spoken since I was a kid." Tony fell off his seat and he said to me, "Sit down and don't say a word." I said, "Okay." So, as I said, he was very private, very, very, very gentle. I'm a gentleman, truly a gentleman. He treated everybody with tremendous respect. Learned so much from the greats.
You went to a gala with Audrey Hepburn.
Oh,
I mean, come on, man. This is crazy. Let's just take these things off one at a time.
okay. The guy who was my manager when I was wrestling, I wrestled as Hank Daniels, the Minnesota farm boy, which is interesting because I've never been to Minnesota. I never saw a farm. It was my moniker. I get a call from him, my manager, and he said, "You want to pick up a few, couple of bucks?" I said, "Doing what?" He said, "Bodyguard escort." And he doesn't anymore. "You got a suit? You have a tux?" "Yes." He said, "I don't know which they want you to wear, but you're going to escort a star." I said, "Oh, okay." I'm wearing my tuxedo. No, I wore the suit. And limousine comes to pick me up. Guy picks me up and we drive. He doesn't say much. Get to Malibu. He parks the car. He says, "I'll be right back." Goes and gets the woman, brings her in, and I look, and it's Audrey Hepburn. And all I could do after I stepped on my tongue, just smile And so, and she says to me, "Hi." I said, she said, "You're Hank?" I said, "Yes, yes, I am." She said, "Hi, I'm Audrey." I said, "Yes, I know." And she gets in the car and we go. And we're going to a fundraiser. Proceeds going to Children's Hospital. We park. Chauffeur gets out. He opens the door for her, escorts her out. I see other guys, other bodyguards and chauffeurs lounging around outside. So I go to join them. And Audrey says, "No, no, 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 Hank, you're coming with me." I said, "What?" "Yes, you're my escort." Walk in, Beverly Hills Hotel. Walk in, guy escorts, takes Miss Audrey Hepburn to her seat. I see a couple of guys standing around. I figure, well, old bodyguards. I go to join them. She says, "Hank, you sit next to me. You're my date." I think I missed my mouth about 8 or 9 times. Stabbed myself in the forehead with the fork. I didn't know what to do. And I'm watching her, and I eat whatever she does. She cuts a piece of meat, I cut a piece of meat. At the end of the people bid 25,000 to have lunch or dinner with Audrey Hepburn. It's over. We're finished. We're heading back. Drive to her where she lives in Malibu. And she says to me, "Hank, you are so sweet. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy life to escort me." And I went, "Oh, yeah, thank you. Thank you for allowing me to escort you." I go back, and the driver takes me back to the hotel I'm staying at. And as I get out of the car, he says, "You know something, Mr. Garrett? You haven't stopped smiling since I picked you up." He said, "Dude, can you say a couple of words?" I said, "No, man, I'm in my reverie." Oh, it was just incredible. What a sweet, sweet lady.
And did you ever talk to her again?
No, no, never did. I never attempted to either.
Yeah,
I thought it
yeah.
would be
You also
out of bounds. Oh,
sure. You also had a significant encounter with Sophia Loren, and let's talk about her because, again, the list of insane things that have happened to you in your life and circumstances continue. So
yeah,
please,
I was doing a movie in the British West Indies with Sophia Loren, James Coburn. He and I became close friends. And the scene is Sophia is my boss is I'm a bad guy for a change. Sophia is my boss's girlfriend. He wants to speak to her. He sends me to get her. And she's in a gift shop in a hotel. This is in Antigua, British West Indies. I walk into the gift shop. She's standing there, and I say to her, "Oscar wants to see you." And she says, "Well, just tell Oscar to wait." And I say, "Nobody tells Oscar to wait." And I sweep everything off the table that she's looking at. I grab her arm and I yank her and throw her into the car. O.J. Simpson is supposed to rescue her. And what he's supposed to do take my head, bang my head against the car. He grabs Sophia and they take off. We go through, we rehearse. I said, all you have to do, OJ, is put your hand on the back of the head, my head. I'll do the hit. He don't want to play that way. Car door is open. He grabs my hair, slams my head on the edge of the car door and cuts me wide open. And down I go. Now I'm lying there bleeding. Someone runs to get my then wife at the hotel. We're shooting right outside of the hotel. She comes running and she sees me in Sophia Loren's lap. And Sophia is blotting the blood on my forehead. And my wife says to me, "Are you comfortable?" And I said, "Well, I make a nice living." She ran back to the hotel, packed, and left. So, I have to finish shooting. I'm going to be there for another week or so. One evening, this is in New York, in Manhattan, and it's on 72nd or 73rd Street on the east side. There's a little private hotel. So we're just walking down the street. It's at night. I see the hotel door open. Two guys in suits are checking out the street. And they escort Sophia out of the hotel. She sees me and she runs over and says, "Oh, my poor darling, how's your head?" She hugs me. I hear from the corner, "Taxi, taxi." My ex-wife, she was my wife then, took off. And we were soon divorced. My episode with Sophia Loren.
Yeah.
Oh,
Tell us that Elvis Presley story. And by the way, did you live in Vegas or were you just in Vegas at the hotels?
I performed at the Sands quite often. And wow. So well, I had the good fortune of working with some of the most incredible people in life. As I said, I'm truly blessed. I was at the Sands. A friend of mine was working with Elvis. He was Elvis's opening act. And he told Elvis, Elvis was very much into martial arts. I am. I've been since the age of 11. So I'm now a Grand Master. I wasn't then. And I get a call from one of Elvis's people. They said, "Would you, Mr. Garrett, would you do Elvis the honor of sparring with him?" And I said, "You want me to do the honor?" I said, "Oh yeah, I'll give the kid a break." Well, Elvis rented one of the halls at the Sands, and he showed up with his entourage. I'm wearing my I paid $1.95 for it, and it's shredded. He shows up. He's wearing an outfit. Must have cost $25,000. One leg in spangles says Elvis. The other says Presley, and it's glittering. And I'm going, he's going to spar with that. He had clothes that was stuff you had on top. Now he comes to me and he says, "Sensei," which is teacher. And I said, no, you don't refer to me as sensei because you and I are equal rank. He said, "Oh, okay, sensei." He said, would you do me a favor, please? He said, try not to hit me in the face because I've got a show to do tonight. So I said to him, well, listen, don't hit me in the face because I too have a show to do tonight. He said, Sensei, if I hit you in the face, it would be an improvement. I said, you know I'm going to kill you. You know that. And he was terrific. What a gentleman. Very, very obliging. I mean, so we.
How was he as a fighter? How was his style?
He just moved, blocked. You know, we were going easy, throwing kicks and punches that were easy to block. And at one point, I lost concentration because I'm thinking, my God, I'm sparring with Elvis Presley. And he threw a flying, yes, flag, and he came down. It was a flying side kick, and his foot was here. And because I lost concentration, I could have blocked or moved out of the way. But he pulled. And had he not pulled, I would be breathing through my nose and the back of my head. So I thanked him. He thanked me. We spent a little bit of time together, and they took off. And that was the adventure with Elvis. And he was I learned what a true gentleman he is. Wow. He left a gift. Wine, I don't drink, but a couple of bottles of wine and a bottle of champagne that was brought up to my room. Sweet, sweet guy.
That's awesome. I love that story. So since we're talking about fighting, we got to talk about the 3 days of the Condor fight with Robert Redford. You've been getting beat up in the last couple of stories, so let's continue the theme.
Wow. Redford, a terrific guy, a gentleman at all points. I was cast, I am a CIA assassin. There is a book distributor, and they're distributing books that have secret messages. And we don't know who in the office has been reading the book and translating. So as I'm hired, I'm with Max von Sydow. I'm disguised as a mailman. And my job is to eliminate everybody in that office. Well, I come in, and first one I shoot is the receptionist, a lovely lady. But as the director, Sidney Pollack, said, Hank, your job is to eliminate no hooks, no feeling, nothing, because that's what you do. You are an assassin. So no expression on your face. It's a day-to-day situation. You go in, you kill, and you leave. Well, we should kill everybody in the office except for Redford, who was out buying lunch for everybody in the office. He comes back, he sees what's happened, and he hides out in Faye Dunaway's apartment. We track him there. I come in, and I'm about to deliver a package. And he looks at my shoes, and they're brown Adidas. He realizes those are not regulation shoes. That was the tip-off. So now we have this fight. And his had a double because I had to throw a kick and a roundhouse, boom, and catch him in the shoulder and drive him. And I say to the double, listen, I'm I'm big, but I'm very fast. He said, don't worry, you'll never touch me. I said, I just want to make sure, that I don't want to hurt you. He said, I'll be gone before you get halfway through that kick. I said, okay, but I'm telling you, I am fast. Action. I catch him and I drive him right across the room. And he comes after that scene and he said, damn, you're fast. Now I got to fight Redford.
Right.
And there's a scene where I throw a sidekick and he's standing in front of a fireplace. Now, I don't know. It's the fire. So I throw, and when I do, I go right through the plywood and my foot is caught. So now they had to go cut and they ran around the back. I had to untie my shoes so I could get my foot out of the hole that I just created.
Yeah.
But so Redford, now there's a scene that is a close-up of me getting coffee in my face. Because Redford grabs his pot of coffee and throws it at me when he realizes that I'm not a mailman.
Right.
He comes out of his dressing room and he sees smoke coming out of this pot of coffee. So he said, whoa, wait a minute. We're not going to throw hot coffee in Hank's face. And the guy who was handling special effects said, oh, no, it's not hot coffee. What it is, it's smoke and chemicals. He said, what chemicals? He says, well, it's an acid and diluted with mineral oil, but it's still smoke. He says, acid? And he walked to Sidney Pollack, the director. He said, Sidney, can I throw the coffee? He said, you're not in the shot. It's a tight close-up of Hank's face. He said, let me throw it. He said, sure. I said, Hank, I'm going to hit you waist high. And all you do is throw your hands up to cover your face as though I hit you in the face. Find out later, if he had hit me in the face, it would have gotten in my eyes, it would have blinded me. How do I thank Robert Redford for saving my eyesight? I break his nose.
Yes. Of course you do.
I'll teach you, Bob, to mind your own business. So when it happened, he said, don't worry about it. My nose has been broken so many times. Because he was a good athlete. I did a lot of skiing, and he broke his nose skiing at one time. So I was very concerned. So that was my episode. And I wound up winning the New York Film Critics Award for Best Fight Scene in Film. And not quite recently, within the last year or so, we were taken to Vegas, and I received an award in Vegas, and it says Best Fight Scene in Film Ever.
Ever. Yeah, ever. It is a great fight scene. It's a fun movie too. I enjoy that movie. You've played a cop in a lot of things. You were a cop on Too Close for Comfort, one of my favorite shows. I think you might have been a cop on These Company. You've been a cop in lots of things, man. What about you makes you a good cop?
Well, I tried. As I said, I joined the police force, and yeah. And thanks to Sammy Davis Jr., he was so instrumental in my life.
Yeah.
And when I talk to kids that are incarcerated, I tell them I had an angel by the name of Sammy Davis Jr. And I got letters from these kids, and they said, Mr. Garrett, Sammy Davis Jr. was your angel. You are our angel. Wow. Wow. So now we're working on a thing, and it's called Hankster's Kids. We want to have a place for kids to come after school. If they're not going to school, come. Get off the street. The street is not your friend. We'll give you a place where you can be comfortable. If you're hungry, we'll feed you. If you're going to school and you need help with schoolwork, we'll help you with that. Just come, get off the street. And so we're working on that as well. Hankster's Kids.
Hankster's Kids. And let's mention the book one more time. From Harlem Hoodlum to Hollywood Heavyweight. It's available on Amazon. You hear the stories, the impossibleness. We didn't talk about the times when he was a professional wrestler very much, other than mentioning the fact that, you had a name and a character. But it's fantastic to have you on, Hank. It's just, you've lived such an incredible life. You've talked to so many and interacted with so many incredible people. I mean, Audrey Hepburn, Sophia Loren, Elvis Presley, Tony Bennett. I mean, Sammy Davis Jr. Come on, it's an incredible life, man. And I appreciate you coming on the show and sharing it with us. And I'm excited to grab the book and give it a read.
Oh, thank you. And we're very proud of the book. My manager, Deanna Marie Smith, if it wasn't for her, there never would be a book. Right. She sat hours just saying, and what happened now? And what do you remember? And it brought all that back. And so here's the cover of the book. Yeah. And we're very proud of it. And as I said, and the proceeds go to the disabled vets. And thank you for having me on.
That book is called Harlem. Of course. Harlem Hoodlum to Hollywood Heavyweight. Stand by a second.
Hey, thanks for watching the show. I really appreciate it. Right here, you can subscribe. Please do that. It makes the show grow. Hit that notification bell so you know which incredible guest is coming up next. Down below is the PayPal link. You can put a small subscription in. That is an enormous help. All that money goes right back into the show. And then right up over here are the next episodes you should listen to, curated by yours truly. Thank you so much for watching the Break It Down.